Hey you guys, and welcome to Real Talk with the Roses. We are back with another Real Talk.
Cool.
We're going to talk marriage.
Let's do it.
The topic that I want to talk about today is the importance of couples continuing to date after they get married, and especially after they have kids. Because that is not something that a lot of couples put a priority on.
Probably not.
And especially even before the kids come along, I think they think that because they're married and live together in the same house, that they're together all the time, that should be good enough, but it really isn't. Like, dating is still very important.
I agree.
So let's talk about the reasons why it's important, and maybe the reasons why it can be hard, especially after the kids come along, for a couple to carve that time out for each other.
All right.
So let's address it from a male point of view. How do you, as a man, or did you, if you can think back that far, we've been married a long time, how important was it for you for us to continue dating?
After we were married?
Yeah, after we were married, but before the kids, like that period of time. Of course, we were married almost 10 years before our kids came along. We waited a while to have them. How important was it for you during that time, or was it important for you?
Well, we spent so much time together. I mean, anytime we were out and about and alone, we were kind of dating.
So that's the way you see it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the perception that I had. And again, we're talking about not right and wrong. We're just talking about the differences between men, the way men think and the way women think. Because, believe it or not, you guys, men and women are different. We just are different. We were designed that way. God knew what he was doing whenever he made men and women. And he made men a certain way, he made women a certain way, so that when the two of them came together, it was a full expression of who God is. And we really do need each other, but it can be a great source of conflict because we do think so differently, and it becomes a war instead of learning to complement each other. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah. So I didn't view it that way. Like I saw us as always being together because we pretty much, you guys see, if you guys have followed us for any length of time, we do a lot of things together, and even as a family. But that's not necessarily, to me, what I would consider dating. Like going on a date, being treated special like you are before you get married. Like before we got married, you would pick me up. You would put your best foot forward, so to speak. You'd take me out to dinner, do something special that you knew I really liked, and create a day that was spectacular for me, probably in the hopes that I would fall in love with you and we would get married.
Gotcha.
But you know the old saying that it's like men go in for the hunt, and once they get the kill, they don't have to work so hard anymore because they've captured their prey. And that's kind of like when you said that a minute ago, that's what I thought about. Because like for you, it was like, okay, well, we're married, we're together, we're going to the grocery store together, or we're doing this activity together, so we're together. But in my mind, that is completely different than a woman being, like the old saying goes, wine and dine, so to speak, treated special, like a date. So why do you think that seems to become of less importance for a man than for a woman?
Probably because most people see dating as you're kind of courting that person in hopes of she'll say yes.
And so after you get married, there's no yeses anymore.
It's done.
And see, I think for women, or at least speaking for me, it is still as vitally important after marriage, because we want to feel, like we talked about last week, we want to feel loved and special, like we're number one to you guys. And so we want like that special, like queen treatment for an evening, because when you get married and you go out to dinner, that's a lot different because the two of you got to eat.
You had to eat when you were dating.
Yes, but you could eat at home because your mama cooking your meals. And so whenever the boyfriend calls you up and it's like, hey, you want to go get something to eat? And you're like, oh, I get to spend some time with him. So when you're married, you're together all the time. You wake up together, go to bed together. You're just pretty much always together. So going out to eat, like in my mind, I think in a woman's way of thinking, it's just another minute of the date because you've got to eat. It just is wonderful because we don't have to stand in the kitchen and cook. But for a man, that obviously, like we thought differently about that. So in your mind, it was kind of like, well, we are together. And in my mind, it was like, we're together doing routine stuff, but it's not that special treatment.
But we're doing the same thing we were doing before we got married. We're going out to eat, we're going to a movie, or we're doing an activity.
Well, yeah, now I'm talking about the nights that you do go to a special dinner and go to a movie. That would be considered a date, which is what I wanted to bring this to. But sadly, a lot of couples don't necessarily carve the time out for that, because you and I both know that we have heard the complaints that a husband comes home from work, he's tired, he's been at work all day, he just kind of wants to chill out. He's not thinking it's important to go out on a date because they're alone and they're together, which kind of in his mind is a date. So can you see the difference where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So like the dinner out and the movie, that kind of a night would be like a date that should still be very much an important part of marriage after you say I do.
What if it's only dinner? This
is my opinion of it. If you call me up from work and say, listen, honey, I don't want you to have to worry about cooking tonight. I want to take you out somewhere. And then she can get dressed up, you go for dinner and come back. To me, that is a date, because you have done something special that kept me from having to do the routine, mundane things of life.
Gotcha.
So what is your definition of a date?
Going out to eat.
So then, in other words, anytime we're out to eat, we're on a date.
Pretty much.
Okay, so there you have it. That's the differences between men and women. So then, do you think that in most men's minds, that if they're taking their wives out to eat, they are still dating them?
I think so.
Okay.
But apparently not.
All right, so obviously, you guys can see that men and women have a very different view, or at least you and I do. I can't necessarily speak for every man and every woman, but have a very different view of what a date is. And you kind of, I feel like most couples do lose that a little bit after they get married, but especially when the kids come along.
Right.
Why do you think it's easy to lose that aspect, and why would it then be important to make sure you hold on to that aspect after the children come along?
I think it's easy to do it just because everybody's so busy.
Like what?
Between work, your work outside of the house, your work inside of the house, tending to the kids, caring for the kids, because the kids themselves, that's kind of a 24/7 operation in itself. So it's hard to carve out that time for that.
Okay, so let's approach it from this angle. First of all, do you agree or disagree that it is important to try to carve that time out?
I think it's important.
Okay, and second of all, when couples have the kids, and now that they have, there's one child, 2 children or more, however many kids are in the house now at this point, and couples don't carve the time, and they say they just don't have the time, but yet you and I both know that a lot of times men can carve out the time to work extra duties, or men can work out the time to go hunting with their buddies. Men can carve out the time to go fishing at 5 a.m. because the fish bite better early in the morning and they get up early. Or a woman can sometimes, and it's harder, I believe it's harder for women, and I want to come back to this part of the subject, but sometimes, not often, but sometimes a mother of young children will find time to carve out to go get her nails done, or to go get her toenails done, to go get that hair done. And not a lot of young mothers do that, because I want to bring in why I think that it's important for the dating because of that factor. But there are a lot of moms who will do that. So for a couple to tell me, we don't have time, we're just too busy. He works and I work and we got the kids to bathe and there's just no time. But you can find time for all these other things. How come you feel like a couple justifies not prioritizing their relationship together?
I guess they just don't feel it as important.
Do you feel like it's a priority issue?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that what that screams to the other person is that my work is a priority, I'll carve time for extra work. My friends are a priority because I'll carve time to go hunting or go fishing. My nails are a priority because I'll carve that hour to go get my nails done. My toenails are a priority, or my hair color, because I'll carve that time out. But you, my dear, are not a priority because I don't have time to go to dinner with you. So how can we help convince all of them that their mate should really be the top priority behind God? He's always number one, but behind God, that your spouse should be your top priority. Do you think it becomes just this mindset that, well, we are together all the time?
I think so from a guy standpoint.
Yeah, and I think so too. And I think that's what I was getting at, that even before the kids come along, the male, typically, the mindset is, but we are together. Like, we're together. So if I take time out to go hunting tomorrow with my buddies, and I spend 5 or 6 hours out in the woods with them, because I'm not with my buddies that much, even though you work with them 8 hours a day, every day.
Some of them.
Because even at home, you're working with your wife. When you get home in the evenings,
right,
it's not quality time.
Gotcha.
So how can we change that mindset? Why is it so important? And then I'm going to tell you why I feel it's so much. To me, it's easier for women after we first get married to want to keep the dating alive, because we have all the time in the world for you guys. We want to be your princess. We want to be your queen. And that's the way we want you to treat us in return. But then whenever the children come along, of course, our role shifts big time. The mindset we have shifts from being this beautiful princess to now being possibly Cinderella, who is a servant in the home because she has so many people to serve. And then the dating is not such a priority for her at that point. So we're going to try to tackle this because I'm going to speak for a minute for women. For most women, the average woman. Not all women are the same, but the average woman. I think after the kids come along, her priorities shift to where they really focus deeply on the kids, because babies need you for everything. Yep. They need you to eat. They need you to be clean. They need you usually to get to sleep. They literally need you for everything. And so a mom's role switches from being a wife and being able to tend to her husband to where now all that energy focuses into those kids, because the kids are so needy. And then it can become a guilt thing for a husband to say, like, I remember the very first time that you and I went on a date. I think Kristen was 6 months old. Like, it had been 6 months before we had a date after we had her, which is not healthy. But nonetheless, because I didn't want to leave her, I felt guilty to leave her. I was a nursing mom for one, and so I felt like she needs me to be there. And I felt guilty. Plus, I knew that she would probably cry when I left her. I didn't want to see her cry. You know, who wants to see their kids cry? And sure enough, when we left her with my parents that very first time and pulled out the driveway, she was sitting there looking towards the window, crying. And I felt, as a matter of fact, I cried. I was so guilty. I felt so guilty to leave her. And so I think for young mothers, the priority is not on dating or on the relationship the way it should be, because she becomes so engrossed with motherhood and all the responsibilities that rest there. But that's not healthy. Do you think?
No, I don't.
Do you think a lot of men are patient with that? Do you think men get frustrated at that? Do you think that that's now when men really want to date their wives again and have that alone time, and now they've gone from, well, we're together all the time, to I really want to be alone with her?
I would probably say yes, because I think there were some times to where it was a little frustrating for me because we never had that time, or we didn't have as much time together. And it was because the responsibilities at home were just so great.
So I was frustrated pre-children. You became frustrated post-children. So it's kind of like the mindset shifts on both sides for men and women, and the role kind of changes. Would you agree with that?
The perfect storm.
yeah, like the perfect storm. I guess so. Because before the kids come along, women really want to date. They want the alone time. They want to be wooed and courted, even though they're married. But then after the kids come along, they're so busy with responsibilities that now here the guy is over here, and he's like, I really want to date her. Now I'm ready to woo her. And she's frustrated at that because she's like, man, you've had all this time to woo me and you didn't want to, but now you expect me to put the kids aside for you to woo me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it can become a big source of contention. How big of a deal do you think it is on a scale of 1 to 10 for men for a couple to learn how to keep that romance, that dating side of a relationship alive, especially after the kids?
I personally think it needs to be a 10 because, like I said, if you don't nurture it, it's going to die and there's going to be separation.
Yeah, and one day the kids will grow up and leave home.
That's right.
And the two of you are going to be together again, alone. And
friction.
I need to go ahead and say this though. I hope the mind change doesn't shift again to where you think we're alone all the time, so there's no need for courting.
We're alone.
We haven't got to the empty nest yet, so I don't know if it switches back again. So pre-children women want to date, post-children men want to date, and so what happens after the children leave the home, who knows?
You don't want to date.
I don't know. We'll see in a couple years, I guess. But I want to speak a word to you, Mom, because it is vitally important. I feel like one day the kids are going to be out on their own because life is just going to be getting started for them. They're going to want their families and they're going to want to get married and whatever they decide to do with their life. And then you're going to be left again as a couple. And what you do together during those formative years while your children are growing up is what you're going to be left with when your children leave home. And there has to be a priority there. I don't think women need to get so out of balance that their children become so all-consuming that she neglects her husband. And that very easily can happen on a woman's point of view. Because like I said, children are so needy that moms feel guilty if they're not taking care of their every need. But on the other hand, I don't think that a woman needs to be so overly focused, and a man should not be so demanding of his own needs that he causes her to slip in a role of being neglectful towards the children.
Right, but I think the relationship, both with the kids as a unit, but then also the relationship just with the spouse, they both need to be cultivated and they both need to be worked on to include a family date per se, but then also the one-on-one dating with the spouse.
Yeah, I agree with that. I remember the first time I heard, we were young, we were really young, in our early 20s, before we even had either of the kids. There was a couple friend of ours who had gone on a vacation, just the two of them, and I don't know if you're going to remember this story or not, but I don't want to call any names. And they had 2 children at the time, and we were talking to them, and they had gone on this week-long vacation, just the two of them, and left their kids behind. And I can remember I was so shocked that they would do that. And of course, having an opinion like everybody does. Everybody gets all up in each other's business and thinks they have to have an opinion on everybody's life, and me included. And so we got in the car. And I remember telling you all the way home, I cannot even believe that they would leave those kids behind and go on a vacation together. Do you remember what I'm talking about now? You still don't remember? I'll have to tell you when we turn the camera off. But I remember thinking, I just cannot even believe that they would do that. They left their kids home and went off, just the two of them? How awful. And like I was thinking, what awful parents. Mind you, this was before we had kids. This couple was a lot older than us and a lot wiser, because after our kids came along, then I realized the importance of that. They still had their family vacation every year and they did things with their kids, but they had also learned the importance of taking time with each other. And we learned that. Then I felt so guilty. I had judged them all those years before. But anyway, we learned to do the same thing. There have been several years in a row that we have gone off, just the two of us, and spent a week away. Right. I think it makes me a better mom whenever I do that, because you get, when your kids are young especially, you get that time away. You get that breather to just not be needed constantly 24 hours a day, and you just can breathe and enjoy your spouse and have some adult time away doing things that you missed out on getting to do. Do you feel that way from a male perspective?
I do, because again, it goes back to you're growing the relationship. And if it's not growing, it's dying.
Did you ever feel guilty the times that we went away, just the two of us?
Early on when the kids were young, yes. Because we love spending so much time with our kids. Us, personally, we didn't really want to, but we did. So you were kind of torn.
Yeah, I did. I felt really guilty the first little, and still I have to say, even to this day, a lot of you guys know a couple weeks ago we took the day together as a date day and went over to St. Augustine and spent the day together. And although I have learned how important that is and how much I enjoy those times, there's still that little bit of, you know, like when we were choosing where to go and eat while we were over there, it's like I didn't want to go to a really nice restaurant because the kids were stuck here eating something out of the refrigerator. Matter of fact, I sent them a text. Would you guys mind if Mom and Dad went here to eat? Because, I don't know, I think that's harder for, like, that wouldn't bother you as a man. No. You would just go where you wanted to go because you would just look at it as we're just going to eat. And I think women struggle with that so much more, ladies. If you're a lady and you can relate to that, comment that down below. I don't want to be all alone here. But I think women kind of struggle with that more than men do. And that's not right or wrong, you guys. It's not right or wrong. We're just different. So, what's some creative things that they can do that doesn't cost any money just to be together?
Walk in the park.
Yeah.
Going to the mall.
Okay. How about a walk on the beach?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
It doesn't cost any money. So if you have some friends in your life, exchange babysitting services. Tell them, I'll keep your kids this Friday, you keep ours next Friday, and work out some deals. You know, it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. If you have family that lives close to you that could take your kids for an entire night, you know, kids get excited to spend the night with cousins, to spend the night with grandparents. Let them go spend the night. And you guys just stay home. You don't even have to go to a hotel. Yeah. There's plenty of things you can do to where you can carve that time out together, but I'm telling you, you've got to do it. Do you agree?
I agree.
You've got to do it. You've got to do it because nurturing your relationship is the most vital thing that you can do, and trust me, you're going to be a happier person, and ultimately you're going to be a better parent. I can honestly say that the times when they were little, when we would get away, even if it was for a couple of hours, just to get away and regroup myself, refocus myself as a mom, and I don't think that's as important for guys. They don't always understand because you were away from home 8 hours a day working. So you didn't know that stress of what it was to have a needy little person need you for everything. They can't get dressed alone, go to the bathroom alone, nothing alone. No. And so I was a better mom. So let me help you ladies out by telling you, don't feel guilty. Trust me, you're going to have a little bit of a moment to breathe and to regroup, and you really will be a better mom for it, and your kids are going to be happier because you're happier. So don't feel guilty. Make time and do it. So, any final words you want to offer?
Go carve some time.
Yeah, go carve some time. Go on a date.
Yeah.
Go sit under the stars.
Get an ice cream.
Yeah, get an ice cream. Walk on the beach, walk in the park. I don't know, maybe just walk in the front yard. Leave the kids inside, go walk around the front yard for an hour. You can do it. I know you can. And we're going to leave you with that. We're going to leave you there. If you have some other creative ideas, tell us. What have you guys done to keep the spark alive in your marriage? What have you guys done for some creative date options, especially on low budgets or maybe no budget? Let us know, because as people read those comments down below, you might can help them with some great ideas on keeping the spark in their marriage. We want to thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes.
We appreciate you spending time with us. Hopefully it helped you just a little bit. And until next time, we pray that you will walk in the favor and the blessings of the Lord. We'll see you soon.